All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Wow, this is a big room here. So this is PDF Publishing Tips and Tricks. My name is Jeremy Hughes. I am an implementation CAM, which means I work with new customers that are implementing and also existing customers that are upgrading from pre-11 versions to 11. I've been with MasterControl for about 3 years or so. Also presenting with me today are Luis Casanova. He's been with MasterControl for about 2 years, and Robbie Rawson, and he's been with MasterControl for about 3.5 years. These guys are both frontline engineers, so for a lot of you, they are the ones that you talk to on a daily basis, in and out. And we're going to be talking about publishing. Publishing is one of those things where you don't really think about it until something goes wrong. So we want to give you guys some tools to help prevent issues, and also when an issue comes up, help to kind of take a look at those and solve those issues. So we're going to talk about a few things here today. We're going to talk about the techniques to minimize publishing errors in basic publish settings. So Robbie's going to go over some settings within MasterControl, and also some best practices as far as minimizing errors when you create documents in publishing. Luis is going to talk about the life of a document in the publishing queue and how those documents move throughout the publishing queue, what happens in the publishing queue, and the different options there. And then I will be going over the most common issues and how to troubleshoot. So the common issues that we see within support, how to take a look at those, and hopefully resolve them. So one of the things that we do want to mention is we do anticipate having plenty of time for questions, but we are going to ask that you save your questions until the end, so that we can get through this and to make sure that we're able to present that information. Chances are, if you have a question, we'll cover it in the presentation at some point, but if we don't, then at that point we'll open it up and feel free to ask any questions you have. So right now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Robbie to talk about techniques to minimize errors in your publishing and publishing settings.
Thanks, Jeremy. So I'll be talking about some techniques to minimize the publishing errors in MasterControl. So the key to minimize publishing errors in MasterControl is going to be your configuration. Your configuration in MasterControl, the settings that you're going to set up there, in addition to avoiding special characters in MasterControl. I'm sure all of you have heard that from support. And then some document creation guidelines. So we'll be talking about your basic publishing settings, your email notifications, your ad-lib settings, your access and copy handling options, and finally the appearance options in MasterControl. So right here we have the configuration parameters page. If you want to be able to publish documents in MasterControl, make sure that you have this first option selected here, publish. If that's not selected, there's no way to publish documents within MasterControl. Now, one cool feature that MasterControl has, that's the second feature, and it's going to be when you edit your documents in MasterControl, if you have this selected, you can automatically have MasterControl send your documents to the publishing queue. So this next section, your email notifications, this is something I truly believe can save you a lot of time and headache. By raise of hand, how many of you have set up email notifications in your publishing? Okay. Okay, about 10 of you. So about 2 years ago, I had a customer call in during the Master Summit. Actually, I was back at the office. They had over 1,000 documents that they had stuck in the publishing queue. And you can only imagine how big of a headache that was for the customer. They had documents that had been in there for over 6 months. And as you probably all know, once one document errors out in the publishing queue, it's very likely you're going to have some other documents error out as well, or they'll just stick in a pending status. So if you go ahead and you assign a user, such as a sysadmin or a dedicated user that can go into the publishing queue and remove and add documents, what that user can get is they're going to get an email notification at the first time one of the documents airs out in the publishing queue. If they go in there, they take out that document in the publishing queue, it's going to save a lot of headache because all those documents are going to continue to publish after that initial aired document. So your AdLib settings, when you install MasterControl, you're automatically going to have, let's see here, oops. You're automatically going to have these file types set up to publish in MasterControl. So if you go in and you want to publish a docx, that's already set up there. The thing that you need to note is that these are not the only file types that you can publish in MasterControl. The thing, what you need to set up is you need to have the application that is used to open up that file type on the publishing server so that AdLib can go ahead and publish that. So these are your access and copy handling options. This is going to be the basic publish setting page. You'll also see the exact same page if you go to your vault level publish settings. If you want to limit a certain vault to not publish documents, just go ahead and deselect this publish documents on that vault, and that's going to prevent it. These other settings here are for once the document has been published. So your disable print, your disable change, and the disable selection. These items here they're pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just run through them really quick. But what happens is when you have a published document with the disable print selected, it's not going to allow users to go in and print that published document. Your disable change, it's not going to allow users to go in and make changes to that document. And then finally, the disable selection, it's not going to allow users to copy out the contents of the published document and put it in a different file or document. So your electronic copy expiration, right here we have it set for 48 hours. On here, what this setting does is it basically sets a time bomb for the document after it's been published, and then you go ahead and download that document from MasterControl. So once you download that document from MasterControl, that time bomb starts. So we go ahead and we download that, it has 48 hours that we'll be able to keep that document open. Does that necessarily mean that we're never going to be able to open that document again? No, it does not. You can go ahead and re-download that document in MasterControl. Once you download that again, that time bomb is going to restart. So you're going to have another 48 hours. You don't have to have, it doesn't have to be set to 48 hours. You can set it to whatever you want there based off of your business needs. And then you can also have just a custom message that you can have your users see when the expiration does come up. So your appearance options, you have your cover sheet template. In this option here, you can select the default template, you can select a custom template that you've already created. And what this does is, if you want to set up publishing for a particular vault and you want a specific cover sheet for that vault, you can go ahead and select that here. You can also change it so it's on the front or back of that published document. And your signature manifest, as you all probably know, these are going to be the approvals on the document itself, and you can have that on the signature manifest. So how many of you have set up inline attachments, enabled that? Okay, so a couple of you. So what this does is it's going to be publishing if you have this option selected, it's going to be publishing the attachments that are on your info card. So if you go to your info card and you go to the attachments and links page, These attachments right here, whoops, let's see if I can use this thing. These attachments right here are going to be published at the same time that your main file is published. So one thing that you need to be aware of is that if you do have this selected, make sure to know that it may take a little bit longer for the documents to go through the publishing queue because it's publishing more than just one main file. Now your watermark setting, there's a button there that you can select, and it gives you options to change the opacity of the watermark. You can change the location, the font size, the font itself, and you can change what the text actually is. So right now it says confidential. We can go ahead and go in there and we can change it to test. So let's see here. So how many of you have called into support and asked or have been told to avoid special characters? Okay, more of you, I'd say. Well, MasterControl has improved the functionality of having special characters, but we still want to stress to avoid them as much as possible. We found the most troublesome to be your pound symbol, your ampersand, and your single quotes. So now we're going to be talking about proper document configuration. What you can do to limit errors once they're sent into the publishing queue based off of the document itself. So we recommend that you have a company guide to allow users to follow so that they're throwing documents in the publishing queue into MasterControl that are going to limit the errors that you see there. So make sure that I'm only going to go over a few of these, but make sure that your margins are at least a ½ inch or larger. Make sure that once you do have those margins set up, that you go in there, you make sure that the contents are all within the margins. So if you do have like an image or a header that's outside the margins, it's very likely that that's going to error. Now, if you have like a Visio chart on your document, what you can do if you don't want to install Visio on your publishing server, you can take it to an image editor such as Paint, and you can resave that image as a .png or JPEG, and then you can throw it into MasterControl or into that document, and that's likely going to go through without any issues. So using a cover sheet, MasterControl, as I already said, comes with a cover sheet. And with that cover sheet, what we recommend you do is you test publishing with that cover sheet on your test environment to make sure that all those fields are populating your document number, your revision, the title, and other things that are going to be pulled over from the info card itself. We also recommend if you do want to go ahead and customize the cover sheet, you can go do that. We found it to be most helpful if you just simply customize or modify the cover sheet that's been provided to you by MasterControl. And again, just test that in your test site prior to putting it in your production site. So now that we've talked a little bit about proper configuration in MasterControl, avoiding special characters, and then your proper configuration on the document itself, Luis is going to be talking about the life of the document in the publishing queue.
Thank you, Robbie. Okay, well, like Robbie said, the most important thing is configuration. Most of the incidents we receive come from improper configuration, not using templates, or not having guidelines for your employees to use. Now, sometimes you will see that those documents will go to the publishing queue and we will have to troubleshoot. In order to troubleshoot, we need to understand what happens to that document when it gets approved, or it gets sent to the publishing queue, or is edited. Here we're going to talk about your publishing queue, what happens to it. Well, this is the publishing queue that you know. You have two sections here, your conversion queue on the top, and your modification queue. Now, what happens on the back end is that we take the documents from the web server, we move it with all the necessary files, attachments, and cover sheets, and overlay file, we take them all and move them to the publishing server. It will then come up here. By the way, we're going to create a job ticket at that moment with instructions of what to do with that file during publishing. You will see it now here in your conversion queue in pending status. It will remain there until the schedule task runs, which is about every 15 minutes, or a user manually runs the task or sends it to publish. Now, once we have that file on the server, Atlas is going to open it using the native application, and it's going to convert or print as a PDF using Atlas drivers. That is true actually for PDF files too, so just keep that in mind. Now, once we have that converted, and I'm talking only about the main file, we're going to move it to the modification queue. And here's where the fun begins. What happens in the modification queue? Well, we have your main file converted as a PDF. We're going to take it and we're going to assemble it together. We're going to use your cover sheets, your watermarks, your headers and footers, and your signature manifest to assemble your document. Now, something else happens here. Trick question. Who knows what else happened here? What else? Yes, that happens on the back end. But on this queue in particular, something else gets done. Anybody wants to guess? I said main file, so we're actually going to publish your attachments at this point. So when we troubleshooting, you need to realize that we converted on the PD. We converted the main file on the first queue, and we're going to add your attachments at this point. And we're going to finish, assemble your document. We're going to move it back to the server. Now, quick note, just remember that your forms work a little bit different. We start in the modification queue for forms, and we do the exact same process for the rest. Now that we understand what happens to that document on the back end, we need to find the errors. Because sometimes, well, the error's out. But we're going to find here when you have an error on your status, you're going to have a new section here, or a new icon, the first icon, where you can now open the error log. You can click on there, and it's going to open a very small window. So it's very large, so I recommend you to actually grab it, copy it, and put it in WordPad, and just word wrap. It's a little easy to read. It's kind of what I did here. I highlighted the section of the error that I created not too long ago. This is what I got. Pro tip, in order to find that error easier, I do Control F or Control Find and type the word error. It shows me right there. Now, we understand now how that document moves in the queue, the mystery of the queue. And we understand how to read the errors. We now need to work on the common issues because we're going to have problems. We're going to have issues. But Jeremy's going to work with us and troubleshoot together and help us out. So Jeremy, take it away.
Thanks, Luis. Okay, thanks, Luis. So I think as these guys have kind of taught us here, configuration is the key, and doing these things will help you minimize errors. But there may still be those things that come up where something happens, and what do we do from there? What do we do from that point? How do I know what to look at? So we're going to go over some of the common issues and some ways to take a look at those and maybe try to help prevent those or fix those. So the first one we have, and we're going to talk mainly about the conversion process. Conversion process is where you see the majority of the errors because it deals with document content. That modification queue, that second queue on the bottom that Luis talked about, you'll still see some things in there, but usually it's not quite as common. The things that affect the conversion process, your image sizing and scaling. This is images that are in your document that may be larger than they appear. Embedded files and images, so you've taken Luis talked about this a little bit, a Visio drawing or something, you've put it right into your document. Sometimes that will cause some issues. Margins, again, we've talked a little bit about that as far as having half-inch margins, so we'll go over how to check those and what kind of errors you normally see with that. Hyperlinks to external files, that's linking out to a file that might be on your desktop or something like that, where when you get into the publishing queue and AdWeb is processing that document, you really don't know where to go out and find that file. Secure documents, so security on PDF documents, Word documents, Excel documents, those can cause some problems with the security. Scanned documents are, I know, a big one where you've maybe gotten old documents and you've scanned them. Sometimes there are some problems with that, and we'll look at those. And then pop-ups. Pop-ups can be a challenge as well because of the way AdWeb interacts with those files. So starting with image sizing and scaling. So this talks about images and documents that have been scaled. When I say scale, I mean you've got this great big image and you've copied it into your Word document, and then you've grabbed the handles in there and you've shrunk it down to the size that you need it to be in the document. This will usually give you a failed to print file error, and this is in the error log that Luis talked about. You'll see a failed to print file error. So this is a problem because the way AdWeb looks at those graphics is it looks at them in full size. So when you look at that document, you may see just the picture there, and it may look fine. But when AdWeb goes to open it up to publish it, it's going to see that entire picture. And if that entire picture is larger than your document, that can be a problem. And again, one thing I do want to mention just in general is keep in mind that these are best practices. You may get some of these things to work that we're talking about, but in general, if you want to have fewer errors publishing your documents and have that go a little bit smoother, these are some guidelines you can use. So with this, we're going to check the size of each graphic in the document. Now, this can be a lot of work. I know some documents have 10, 15, 20 images in there, but it is really important because there could be just that one graphic that might be oversized that you miss. So I know in support we've done that for some customers before when we've been troubleshooting, where we've had to go through each individual graphic and check that. So how do we do that? Well, you're going to right click on each graphic in the document and select size and position. And I'll have a screenshot of this window on the next screen so you can get a better idea what it looks like. So you're going to have a scale section in that window towards the bottom. It should show 100%. Now, if it shows anything else, the graphic's been scaled. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can scale documents, but what the other thing you want to look at is the original size section. So the original size section is going to show you what size that picture actually is. And each graphic shouldn't exceed 7.5 by 10 inches if you're using half-inch margins. So basically, you add up your margins, you're printing 8.5 by 11, and subtract your margins, and then okay, so it should be bigger than that. If you're using other margins, then you would need to make that adjustment accordingly. So this is what that window looks like. So you can see here, we've got our original size here. This one's 4.78 by 1.92 inches. You can also see our scale. Our scale right here is at 74%. So this one's okay. Even though it's been scaled, our original size is smaller than than our margins, and so we would be okay with that graphic. That shouldn't be a problem there. Embedded files and images. We kind of talked a little bit about this. We mainly see it with Visio and CAD files. And this causes a challenge for a couple reasons. Number one, you have to have Visio and CAD installed on your publishing server. Those licenses are usually fairly expensive. And so that right there is there's a monetary constraint there. The other problem that you have is if that isn't installed on your publishing server, then those items will not publish because AdWeb doesn't know how to handle them. You need to have those applications installed. So our best practice recommendation on this is to convert these files to images. You can convert them to JPEGs, PNGs, whatever your image of choice is, as long as it's a standard image, and then insert them into the document as images. Most of your CAD software, most of your Visio software will have an option to either save as an image or export as an image or something like that. So that's the best practice that we recommend, just to avoid any issues with publishing Visio and CAD files. Margins. We've talked a little bit about margins. Robbie went over and mentioned half-inch margins. Half-inch margins, we do require a half-inch margin on all sides of the document. It's actually set in the job ticket that goes over to AdWords that MasterControl sends. It's actually statically set there. So we do set those half-inch margins. Now, that's not to say you can't get something to publish with half-inch margins. Obviously, these are more best practices. You may have done it before, and that's great, but just realize it may not work every single time. So on these, again, our error log is going to usually show us a failed to print file error. To check the margins, I'm going to go through Word and Excel. Again, I'll have screenshots on the next slide here. So on a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet, you're going to go to Page Layout, Margins, and then I like to click Custom. And it's not the Custom button, it's kind of the Custom selection. And that'll actually show us what those margins are set at. And the margins should be at least ½ inch all the way around. So we've got two here. We've got one from Microsoft Word on the left. On the right is Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Word, we can see here we've got our top margin at 1 inch, bottom margin 1 inch, left and right at 3/4 of an inch. So that one's good. That one's fine. Should be okay. You can have them bigger. You just want to have that minimum. So our Excel file is a little bit different story. So our Excel file, we've got our left inch at 0.35, right at 1/4 inch, top at 0.72, and bottom at 0.49. So on that one, obviously, we need to change our left, our right, and our bottom at minimum. Top should be okay. If you wanted to change it, make it all even, you could. But that's what we would want to look at. And this is, you look at this, like I said, in either Word or Excel. Hyperlinks to external files. So hyperlinks to external files causes a problem, kind of like I mentioned before, because AdWords doesn't know where to go to get this file usually. And it's not necessarily AdWords, but the system itself. So if you've got a file on your desktop and you embed a link to that file in your document, obviously MasterControl, AdWords, they're going to have a hard time reaching out to get that file, especially if you've packed up and gone home for the day and taken your laptop with you. So with these, we recommend that you don't necessarily turn those into links. You can put paths to files in there if you want, but make them text. Don't actually make them a link so that people can actually access those files. They can copy and paste out the paths that those are going to. So secure documents. So we're going to talk about Microsoft Word first. Again, failed to print file error. Failed to print file error is pretty common, and that's why we wanted to present some of these. It's a common error, but there's a lot of different reasons for it. And so it's kind of going through all the steps to check to make sure that you've kind of covered everything as far as what may be causing that error. So to check security on a Microsoft Word document, you're going to go to the Developer tab and restrict editing. Now the Developer tab is a hidden tab by default. You won't see it in Microsoft Word. To enable that, there's articles out on the internet on how to enable that. You could probably do Google Enable Developer tab, or you can talk to your IT department and they should be able to help you out with that. So once you've got the Developer tab, you can go to Restrict Editing. And if you see a Stop Protection button, document has security. It's going to need to be removed before that can be processed. And the reason for that is AdWords doesn't know your passwords. It doesn't know. It's going to stop it because there's a password on there and it really can't do anything with that without having the password, and it really doesn't have the ability, even if you have the password, to throw that in there. So with Excel documents, it's a similar process, but you're going to go to the Review tab. So the Review tab is on by default, so you should be able to see that. And the easiest way to check this is if you see a button in the Changes section that's labeled Unprotect Sheet, well, it's obviously got protection on it. It's gonna be protected. Excel's a little bit trickier because you have to check each tab individually, because you can apply that at the worksheet level. So you can have this sheet that's not protected, this sheet's that's protected, but if any one of those is protected, it's gonna cause a problem when it tries to publish. So in Excel 2013, you can also click File, and the info section will have an entry if the document has security on it. I've got a screenshot of that one as well. So this, when you click File on your document, 2013 and above, I believe, has this. And so you can see our workbook here is protected. We can see which ones are protected. And so we would need to unprotect those, save them. And keep in mind, when you're making these changes, you will need to replace the main file and run that back through publishing. So you probably will need to revise the document in order to get those to work. What we do recommend is when you make changes like this to a document, rather than revving your production document a bunch of times, load it up into your test site and test it out there to make sure that it's going to work okay through that site. So.
This is evil me. This is evil me. That's why that's there.
This is evil Luis. So Luis created a document for me last night, or the night before. He's been working on it. He's been really excited about this. He created a document for me. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of see some of these things in action and try to actually troubleshoot this document and figure out what's wrong with it. Are there 5?
8.
8.
He has never seen this document.
Yeah,
so
first time I'm seeing it, so hopefully I don't fail. So
if you get them all, that's pretty good.
So we are going to pull this document up here, and let's see. So we're going to go through a couple of things here. So I did get a glance at this earlier, so I know one thing. So right after that, I'll just go with that one. So the first thing I see, we've got a special character in the file name. That 2 up there, that's going to cause a problem. So
easy one, easy one.
Yeah, like I said, I did happen to see that as we were opening it up and moving it over. So as we move down here, I'm just going to kind of look through this real quick here and see if I can find the easy ones here. Margins. Okay, let's take a look at margins. So here is our layout. So this is what I was talking about with custom. So you can, sometimes there'll be an option here for custom, but this is the one that I would select. We got 1-inch margins. So we should be okay with that.
Does it without headers?
Without header, yeah. So without headers, so yeah. So
She might be into something here.
might be onto something. Okay, well let's take a look here. Let's take a look at the headers. Graphic in the header.
Somebody helped you out. That's cheating right there. But that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What was that?
The margin on the header. You
Margin
got
on
it.
the header.
Okay,
Nice.
so that matters for how far the header is from the top
Yes,
of it?
yes.
It can, yes.
So
Yes.
that'll throw it off?
It can, or it can actually, it might cut off your image on the top.
So that header needs to be from 0.5.
Well, what I would do in this case is I would actually, you know what? Let's put something else here. While we're at it.
Caesar.
Oops.
The other, the second, yeah, that one.
All right, so, yeah, look at that. 6.9 inches by 31.25 inches.
They're helping you out.
Thank you. So that's a problem, yeah. So 31.25 inches is going to be a problem. We can see it's scaled at 11%, width at 11%. So what I would do in that case is I would pull that graphic out of my document and into like Paint or just some photo editor and actually resize it to the size I want and then reinsert it back into the document. That's the best practice, is to actually use file or insert image to get that back in the document. You can copy and paste, but again, that can cause some problems sometimes. And I'm actually going to talk about a copy paste problem here that these guys don't know about yet, that I thought about as I was thinking about this.
Find the other mistakes first.
Okay, we'll keep going. All right, so other mistakes. One thing I saw is that looked like there was some sort of link, maybe. No, maybe not.
You highlight it on the header.
Oh yeah, let's get that. Okay, so there's another graphic here. I am, just because I know Luis. Wait, that's embedded. So this is an object. So this is a problem because this is an embedded object. It could be a problem anyways.
Double click it. It actually opens another Word document. You can get creative.
Is it real?
You see that?
Wow, good job.
Yeah. I've seen that happen before. That's why I put it there.
Okay, so yeah, so there we go. Let's see, how many more we got?
You're missing 3.
3, okay. So let's,
You can tell I love this part.
he's been waiting all week for this.
There's links right there. LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, Facebook.
Where did I miss?
Yeah.
See?
Down.
I need to hire her.
Right. GXP, Wi-Fi,
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are definitely links.
Okay, that's one.
So yeah,
So we can't have ones where they click on it and link in our documents.
it's not recommended just because,
I've got tons of my documents.
I mean, if it works, great. You know, and if it works, that's fine. As far as a best practice, we do try to say to avoid that, just because you may have one that doesn't at some point, you know, and this is more for like your users, because as soon as your users think, oh, I can, link Twitter, Facebook, Google, oh, I can link this file, I can link,
And it's
this.
just files and files.
Files can
They'll
cause,
probably go away since our room in master control anyway.
yeah. So, sure.
We have tons of protocols that have embedded content at the end, like all the attachments are actually embedded at the end of the document. You're saying it may work, so I'm thinking there are some constraints that apply to this. It will.
We can.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We can talk about that at the end.
Yes.
Okay, no, that's fine, that's totally fine. But that does sound like a complex thing we need to kind of dedicate some time to.
You want to
Okay,
help you
so-
out with hyperlinks? I put some hyperlinks to some websites, and I did for some local file on my computer. So that
I
would
thought I
work.
saw one somewhere here.
Yeah, it's on the second page.
Yeah, I should scroll down and highlight it.
But I really want you to find one that I put just for you.
Yeah, so there's a hyperlink. One just for me, huh?
Just for you. I don't know if he's gonna find it, but it's tricky. You can say you lost to me if you want.
Oh no.
Is it protected?
It's like,
Oh, yeah, let's check. Here's how to here's how to check for protection.
No,
Um,
no, no,
Well, guess,
No.
yeah, wait, I'm gonna,
no, no.
okay, so we could actually see right here too. Another place to see, protect document here. So
There you
that's one
go.
place you can see it.
This one is gonna be hard for you to find. I admit, that was just evil from me.
Can't control it.
He saw the file. He saw the file. They saw it.
Oh, yeah. There's something over there.
There's something there. You probably don't want to select all though.
Probably not.
So I did put a white box there so he cannot see it.
That's good, that's good.
And that was obviously outside the margin. And that's not gonna happen to you often, but things like that can happen.
Yeah, and the other thing I would kind of caution with too is links that don't necessarily show up blue. We kind of saw that here with gray. Sometimes we'll see them in black, so it just looks like regular text. So kind of want to be careful with those things. So we got them all?
No, you missed one, but it's okay. I'll show you.
Okay, show me.
So there's a section. There's a section right here, and that's just again. It's kind of hard to notice in the screen like this, so I give him that. Right here. Aha! Expands. That might have a problem with Adlib too, because Adlib may not be able to do that.
Yeah, we have seen something like that before, where if you've got expanding things like that, it can cause some problems.
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
That was one we didn't cover. I told him only stuff that we cover, so. Okay, so let's start our slideshow again. So secured PDF documents. We're just going to kind of talk about PDF security a little bit. So PDF security can be a problem because, again, doesn't know what to do with them. So to check security on a PDF document, you're going to open that file up in Adobe Reader, click on File Properties, click on the Security tab, and review the Security Document Restrictions Summary section. Security methods should say no security. That's really important. That's probably the most important thing. That's going to tell you whether or not that document's secured. Ideally, we would like all options in the document restrictions summary section to show allowed. There are some here and there that can be restricted, but ideally we would like those to show allowed. This comes up a lot with vendor-provided documents, documents that your vendors may send you where they've been secured, and obviously they don't want you modifying their documents. But especially the security method, that it can cause problems when you're trying to publish it. Just be aware of that. So we'll talk about scan documents a little bit here. So the most common issue with scan documents is that the scanner applies compression to the created PDF file. So you've got a bunch of documents you've scanned in with your scanner. Scanners most of the time are going to compress those. They're actually images that it puts out. And with those images, it will usually apply some sort of compression to it. AdLib and MasterControl have a little bit of problem checking or handling these. It's gotten better, but we still see this from time to time. So to resolve this, you're going to need a copy of Acrobat Pro because we're actually going to have to open up that scan document and remove the compression. The other option is to rescan all your documents in without the compression. That's usually a setting on your scanner, but nobody I've ever talked to wants to do that. So, we're going to go through two. We're going through Acrobat Pro 9 and Acrobat Pro 10 because that's mainly what we have access to and support. And 10, I think, will be the same even on future versions. If not, there should be a way out there to figure that out on instructions for other versions. So with 9, we're going to open up that PDF main file in Adobe Pro. We're going to click in the menu bar, Advanced, PDF Optimizer, Cleanup. We're going to change the drop down there to remove compression. We're going to save that file, and then we're going to re-upload it to MasterControl as a new main file. I don't have a screenshot of this one, unfortunately, but I do have a screenshot of 10. And so with 10, same type of thing. Open up the document, and so then on our menu bar, we're going to click File, Save As, so it's a little bit different there. We're going to save this as an optimized PDF. We're going to click the Cleanup option, and then we're going to select Remove Compression in the Object Compression Options dropdown. And I do have a screenshot of this one, so we'll go over that here. 2 minutes. Then we're going to click OK, and we're going to save the PDF. We're going to place the info card with the new PDF file. So here is our screenshot here. You can see we've got our cleanups selected. We've got our object compression options. We're going to remove compression, and we're going to save it here, and then again, reload it back into MasterControl. Pop-ups. Pop-ups may cause a failed open file or an FMR timeout error. This includes your Microsoft security prompts or your Microsoft Office security prompts, software registration prompts, update messages, error pop-ups, any prompt that would require you to interact with the system. So you select yes or okay or put in your initials for Microsoft Office, things like that. These cause problems because, again, AdLib can interact with this. So for troubleshooting these, you're going to want to log into the publishing server as the user that publishing is running under, that service account. That is key because that's how you're going to acknowledge that message and that's how you're going to see what's going on. You're going to copy. You can also copy the document to the publishing server and open it on the server to see what's happening, what's happening when AdLib opens it up. And also a best practice is open any newly installed applications on the publishing server to clear those registration prompts, to clear any of those prompts you might get when you install a new application. So we've got a little bit of time left here. We did want to open it up for questions, and I'm sorry. So you had a question on. So you were saying you had a bunch of embedded documents at the end of your documents?
Like reports where all the data of the reports are attached.
Okay. Have you tried publishing them yet? No? Okay. So what I would recommend is trying to run one through. Yeah, just one, and see what happens. Like I said, it depends on a few different things. It depends on the application that you're interacting with. It depends on kind of how it processes things. My best suggestion.
Link type. You can access. You might be requesting to go to a website that your server might not have access to. That would be a problem.
Yeah. So I would suggest, and if it doesn't publish, definitely give us a call in support here, and we'll look at it and try to figure out what it might be. We don't want you to necessarily not be able to publish embedded, but we may need to kind of get creative and figure out what we might see with that. Okay? Yes?
In version 10, we've done that, and it just shows icons. to the publishers, but the links don't work.
Yeah, and that may be the case in 11. Have you guys seen that, where it publishes just the icons instead of the actual files?
I've seen that a few times.
One thing you could do potentially would be to pull those out, or put those into MasterControl separately, and then link them on the info card, and then publish the attachments and links. That would be a potential. I know that's a lot of work, but that would be maybe one potential. Yes, I think. Yeah, yep, go ahead, sorry.
Did you say that subscripts and superscripts are problems in publishing?
They could be. Now, I've seen it where subscripts and superscripts work. It depends on how it's put in there. And that would be in the file name. So in the file name itself, yes, it could be a problem. But if you've got it within your document, usually within the document, it's okay.
No, in the file name.
In the file name? Potentially. It's something that you would want to test out and double check. It kind of depends on, and I don't know, have we ever seen?
What happens too is that we have different versions of AdLib in the software, and we have improved a lot in some areas. And you will notice that sometimes it will publish for some customers, not for others. But it's something we're still working on it. I haven't myself recently.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen an issue with it. But again, it's more of a best practice to just be aware that it may be a problem. Okay, sorry. Okay.
So the and symbol is best practice just not to use it in the title.
In the title, yes, definitely. Within your document, you should be fine.
I can use it in a course name because I'm limited on characters, because that's not getting published.
Right.
But
Yeah.
in a title, since I'm publishing a document, just don't use it there.
That would be the recommendation, yeah. Like I said, again, and I know this is kind of a rough answer to here, but it may work. But the best practice is to avoid it if you can.
When I'm short on time and I need to publish it, I really don't want it to be me.
Yeah.
Correct.
Exactly.
In attachments too. If you put the title, if you're publishing your attachments and you use the title with ampersand, that causes problems too. So the title of the attachments too.
Okay, so if it's a document and I'm loading it, just don't use it.
Correct. And that's because we created that file in the back end that gives instructions what to do. And you might have a wildcard there that's going to trigger an error.
Okay.
Okay, and I think you could.
Could you touch on the printing the attachment? Is that set up by vault for your documents? Do you do that or?
Printing the attachments, yeah. Typically, you can do it either. So there is a global setting for it, but you can also do it on the vault level. Yeah.
So we have a lot of big documents, like 200-page documents, so we link the table of contents to the title in like page 60, for example. And sometimes when the document publishes to PDF, the links in the table of contents as well as the link that it's connected to in like page 60, for example, shows up as a reference error. Is that a configuration issue or is that a But it doesn't happen all the time, so we don't know what to do about it because it doesn't happen every time, but it happens every now and then.
We might need to see an example of that because.
Yeah, I would definitely say get in contact with us there. Have you called support about it or anything?
I think we called once and said they were going to look into it. I think finally we just redid the document and we fixed it that way, but we've had it happen a couple more times and I don't think we've contacted.
Call me. I'll be there.
Always.
Robbie.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, we got some back here. Yes.
I recently was asked to edit the cover sheet, which I did, and I tested it, and it's as we want it to be. But now I have to run a lot of documents through for that to show up on them, because of course it doesn't like to be published. Is there a way to not limit how many you put in the queue? Because now I can only do 100 at a time, and I've got 5,000 that I have to do through.
So you should be able to, so as far as manually putting those into the publishing queue, you can usually do that by vault. I don't know that it limits the number you can put in. I haven't seen, it'll only show the first 100.
It only shows the first 100.
But you can put in as many as you want in there. It'll only just show the first 100. It'll only display the first 100.
And that's just a limit on HTML, how the browser handles.
But when you search for them, I didn't see a vault option, and then you have to choose how many go in there, right?
So you can do, so what you would have to do is you would have to do a basic search, which should give you a vault dropdown.
Okay,
And then you can select the vault, and then you do have to go through and select those individually. It's honestly, it is not an ideal solution. It is a little bit rough. We're hoping people aren't, republishing their documents too often, but unfortunately, that is the way to do that as far as getting those all back through. And it's a lot of it. That is because of the way that those files interact. We have stuff that we're writing to the AdWeb database. We're having files that are moving back and forth, and so there's not something we can really do on a back end type of thing to actually kick those through to publish.
that was my next question.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's not really a whole lot that we can do on that one because of the way that works.
Well, the vault location, they realized that they were putting information in the notes field that they didn't like ISC.
Okay, yeah.
So they're wanting it done yesterday.
Yeah. I know in support here, we've experimented a little bit with a script to try and do that, but I would not feel comfortable saying it's been successful. We've had some mixed success with it, and so I would hesitate to offer that as a solution because it has been mixed success, and in some cases it worked, in some cases it hasn't. So we've kind of seen it's not really something that it would be something I'd be comfortable with, like I said, as a solution. It's something that you may have more problems than
You're not
it's
comfortable,
worth.
I'm not comfortable.
All right, anything else? Any other questions? Oh, yes.
So in publishing form, I've had a couple of instances where some of these signatures did not publish. And then when I went and forced it to publish again, they would show up.
It seems like
This is the signature manifest, it's the signature on tab 1.
I've seen that before.
So it's not the signature manifest, is it a signature?
Signature inside
The
the form
approvals?
itself. Yes.
Approvals on
Approvals in the form. I've seen that before, but it's kind of hard to predict. I know what you're saying. Sometimes it just works, and sometimes you get to
Yeah.
publish it.
And if I add it to the queue again and force publish again, it comes up fine. But it's like the first try to publish it misses it every once in a while.
There or something.
Yeah, I think we've seen this
It's a key.
before, but
It's a case by case situation, really. But
yeah, I would say call Louise. Have a take a look at
I might be busy with the other one, so call Rob.
All right, so I got one for you, please. So form builder, I built some forms. They look fine in the actual info card, but whenever I print them, it stick to pages sometimes. Is that a common error or?
It's not, and I remember you and I have a case
Yeah.
with this. And it's the way the form builder actually takes information and builds that HTML,
Right.
how it reads those tags. And it's a little bit hard because when you create in your custom form, then it's kind of hard to control what you're doing with it. That has been a challenge. I'm aware of the case we had. We do have a defect for sections of our incident together.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if that was a common thing or
It's
something
not
I was just
common.
experiencing.
It's not common. Actually, you're the only case that I've seen of that.
Oh, okay.
So, not to point you out, Ryan from Gold here.
All right, guys, well, I think we're getting kicked out of the room, but if you have any more questions that we weren't able to get answered, feel free to come grab us, talk to us. We'll be here afterwards. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Take the survey.